Nobody built a bridge 50 meters underground. That is not an opinion, that is physics. You build a bridge where people can see it, where it serves a purpose, where the ground level exists. You do not carve decorative stonework into foundations that will be permanently submerged under a riverbed where no human being will ever look at them. And yet, right now beneath the Rhine, beneath the Danube, beneath the Thames and the Mississippi and the Ohio, at depths of 30, 40, 50 meters below the current riverbed, there is carved stonework, decorative moldings, architectural ornamentation of the same quality as the visible sections of the bridges above, maintained with perfect consistency down to depths that should have been solid earth or underwater darkness from the moment construction finished. Engineers found it during drought inspections, during dewatering projects, during the rare low water periods that drop river levels far enough to expose what is normally permanently hidden. They wrote internal reports, they filed the footage, they used the careful neutral language of professionals who have found something they cannot explain and have decided, individually, without coordination, across multiple countries and multiple decades, that explaining it accurately is not worth what accurate explanation would cost them professionally. Unprecedented foundation depth, anomalous construction, inconsistent with documented bridge specifications. I have those reports, and what they describe is not a bridge construction anomaly. It is proof that when Tartaria built these structures, the rivers did not exist. The valleys were dry, the ground level was meters higher, and what we call river crossings today are the exposed peaks of Tartarian land monuments. Their upper sections still visible, their foundations submerged under riverbeds that formed after the civilization that built them was destroyed. The water is not the context for these bridges. The water is the evidence of what happened to Tartaria. Stay with me for the next 10 minutes, because by the end of this you will never cross a bridge the same way again. Here is the argument that ends the conventional explanation in one sentence. You do not decorate what will never be seen. Every human culture that has ever built anything has operated by this principle. You invest craftsmanship in visible surfaces. You place decorative work where it communicates to the people using the structure, to the culture funding it, to the generations who will pass it. Ornamentation is a social act. It requires an audience. The carved stonework at 50 meters below the Rhine riverbed had no audience. Not if it was built as a river crossing. Not if those foundations were constructed under temporary cofferdams and then submerged the moment the construction was complete. Nobody saw that stonework from the day it was finished. Nobody was supposed to see it. It served no communicative function whatsoever for any bridge crossing any river, unless it was built when that surface was above ground, unless the craftsmen who carved those details expected them to be visible, expected people to walk past them, expected the structure they were working on to stand in open air in a landscape where what is now the Rhine riverbed was dry ground. The ornamentation is not a detail, it is the entire argument. Because ornamentation requires intent, and intent requires an audience, and an audience requires visibility, and visibility at 50 meters below the current river surface requires one thing and one thing only. The river was not there when it was built, and if the river was not there, if these structures were built on dry ground, in the open air, by a civilization that understood the landscape as terrestrial rather than aquatic, then every assumption about when they were built, and who built them, and what they were built for, requires revision. The revision this channel has been building toward from the beginning. Tartaria built on dry ground, the mudflood buried that ground, and the rivers we cross today run through valleys that Tartarian civilization crossed on land. The second problem is the size. And the size problem makes the ornamentation argument worse, not better, for anyone trying to defend the conventional explanation. Bridge foundations are engineered to the load they carry. This is not complicated structural science. The dimensions of a foundation reflect the weight and dynamic forces of the structure above it. Engineers can work backward from a foundation's cross-section to estimate what it was designed to support. The calculation is reliable. It is the same calculation that structural engineers use when they assess existing bridges for load capacity upgrades. When inspection teams applied that calculation to the exposed lower foundation sections of the Rhine, the Danube, and several major American river crossings, the results were the same across every site. The foundations are sized for structures 3 to 4 times the scale of the bridges currently standing above them. 3 to 4 times. Not slightly oversized for safety margin, not modestly over-engineered by cautious builders. 3 to 4 times. The pier bases are too wide. The foundation footprints are too large. The structural math of what those foundations were designed to carry does not match what is sitting on top of them. What is sitting on top of them is not what they were built for. What they were built for was destroyed. The upper sections of the Tartarian structures, the portions that extended above the ground before the mudflood, were annihilated in the catastrophic event that buried the civilization. What survived was the foundation level, the base, the part that was already in the ground when the sediment came, and the civilization that rebuilt above the mudflood. The populations that inherited the post-reset landscape found those foundation peaks projecting above the new ground level, above the new river surfaces, and did what every inheriting civilization has done with Tartarian infrastructure throughout this channel's investigation. They built on top of it, called it their own, and wrote official histories that describe the visible fragment as the complete structure. The bridges are not complete structures, they are the tops of buildings whose floors are underwater. The physical proof that closes this argument is in the sediment. During the inspection operations that exposed the deep foundations, geological teams took core samples from the material packed directly against the buried masonry. Standard procedure for assessing foundation conditions. The results are in the same internal reports as the foundation measurements. The sediment adjacent to the deepest foundation levels is not river sediment. River sediment has a specific chemical and physical composition. It is water-deposited material laid down in gradual layers by flowing water over extended periods. It has the layered structure, the particle size distribution, the mineral composition of material that arrived in water and settled on a riverbed. The material against the deep foundations is terrestrial soil, agricultural in composition, the kind that forms under vegetation cover in a dry landscape, with fossilized root systems, with preserved organic matter, with the soil profile of ground that was, at the time it was deposited around those foundations, above water. Part of a living landscape with plants growing in it. That material is now 50 meters below the current river surface. Gradual river deposition does not produce agricultural soil composition at depth. The only process that puts terrestrial soil at riverbed depth is rapid burial, a massive fast-moving sediment and water event that covered a dry landscape so quickly that the surface soil composition was preserved before it could be replaced by the aquatic sediment profile that now sits on top of it. The Mudflood, the same event documented in every Tartarian site this channel has investigated. The same burial signature visible under Chicago, under the Paris Tower foundations, in the sediment layers of 100 cities on 6 continents. Here it is in the riverbed, 50 meters down, pressed against the foundations of structures that were standing in open air on dry agricultural land when the event that buried them arrived. The soil remembers the world before the rivers, and the inspection reports contain its testimony. Subscribe to the Origin Archives right now if you have not already. Turn on notifications, because this investigation connects directly to the buried city under Chicago, the power complex under New York, the frequency network in the Paris Towers, and the star-fork grid that mapped the Tartarian energy system across Europe. Every video on this channel is one piece of the same picture. The bridge foundations are the piece that proves the physical scale of what was buried. You need to see the full picture. Here is what makes this impossible to explain as regional geological variation or isolated construction anomaly. It is not one river, it is not one country, It is not one geological context. The Rhine, the Danube, the Thames, the Seine, the Potomac, the Mississippi, the Ohio, different continents, different river systems, different geological histories according to every conventional model, different bridge construction traditions attributed to different cultures in different centuries, with no documented connection between them, same profile, every time, impossible foundation depths, ornamentation where ornamentation has no audience, foundation dimensions sized for vanished superstructures, internal chambers in pier foundations, serving no bridge engineering function, terrestrial soil composition in the adjacent sediment, the same profile across every river system that has been inspected at low water depth. This is not a coincidence pattern, this is an infrastructure pattern, the signature of a single civilization's construction program, built to consistent specifications, across a global network of terrestrial monuments, on dry ground, that was buried by a single catastrophic event, and exposed piecemeal every time a drought drops the water levels far enough to reach what is underneath. And every time it is exposed, the same institutional response. Document it minimally, file it quietly, wait for the water to return. The water always returns before the inspection is complete. The pattern takes care of itself. The next significant European drought, the kind that drops the Rhine or the Danube to historically low levels, will expose those foundations again. Inspection teams will go down. Footage will be captured, internal reports will be written in the same careful neutral language, and then the water will return, the access will close, and the footage will be filed in the same archives where the previous footage is stored. It has happened in every major drought for 50 years. It will happen in the next one. What will not happen, what has never happened at any site on any river, is a complete inspection, a full documentation, a published report that describes accurately what is at the bottom of those foundations and what the terrestrial soil composition of the adjacent sediment means for every assumption we carry about when these rivers formed and what was here before them. The carved stonework is still down there, 50 meters below the surface you cross when you drive over a bridge, decorated for an audience that has not existed since the mudflood filled the valley around it, waiting with the patience of stone for a drought deep enough and an investigation honest enough to document it before the water returns. Tartaria built across dry valleys. The rivers came after. The bridges remember the world before the water, and the inspection reports, filed, archived, unfindable unless you know exactly where to look, contain the testimony of engineers who went down far enough to see what the rivers have been covering since Tartaria ended. Leave one word in the comments, the word that comes to mind when you realize every river you have ever crossed may be running through a valley that Tartaria built across on dry land. I will read every one.